All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Stand for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Ross?
Yeah.
Jay?
Yes.
Dustin?
Yes.
Sarah? Yes. Eric?
Present and accounted for.
Ralph?
Yes.
Okay, approval of the September 8th, 2025 council meeting minutes. There was a change to the legislative reports from Andrea to Dustin, so those changes have been made. So I just need a motion.
Motion.
Motion by Ralph. Second.
Jay.
Oh, that was Jay, sorry. Enjoy the voice.
Second.
Second by Dustin. All in favor.
Aye.
Approval of the September 22nd, 2025 public hearing minutes for the zoning.
So moved.
Ross,
Second.
Eric, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the September 22nd, 2025 public hearing minutes, conditional use. Motion
Motion.
by Sarah,
Second.
second by Eric, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the September 22nd, 2025 public hearing minutes variance. Motion,
Motion.
Jay, second,
Second.
Sarah,
Sure.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And last, approval of the September 22nd, 2025 committee of the whole meeting minutes.
So moved.
Ross,
Second.
second by Dustin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, let's go to administration reports. Mayor's report, the only thing I have is that we're going to have a special meeting before our CAL on October 20th at 6:45. It's regarding certifying the rate as determined by the Budget Commission. Wendy just received these from the county today. They were a little late in getting things out. And also, we need to look at our contract for the GPS through, is it Wheelan?
Yes.
Yeah. So those two items will be on the special meeting,
6:45.
6:45. That's all I have. Village solicitors,
Nothing this time.
police chief's report.
I got a few things tonight. So I just wanted to go over some of the activity stuff that's going on. I'll have the monthly reports delivered. Give me a minute, I might need them.
Okay.
I'll have your monthly activities and stuff for you at the committee of the whole meeting. But just a few things I want to point out. For the month of September, Commercial Point, we had two cases that went to grand jury where both were given true bills. They were indictments. Two cases that involved drug possession and fleeing from the police. The first incident involved a defendant that was failing to stop when signaled, traveling southbound on 104. This ultimately went into down to Chillicothe. Speeds were in excess of 90 miles an hour. During this, the defendants were throwing packages out of the vehicles. Out of the vehicle. When it's recovered, it was discovered to be methamphetamine and cocaine. They were charged with both the fleeing and also the possession of drugs with intent to distribute. This involved Officers Forte and Officer Barker. They were successful in catching the suspects. We were assisted by the Pickaway County Sheriff's Department in recovering the narcotics that was thrown out of the vehicle. The second incident actually involved Officer Forte and Officer Bynorth and myself. This is suspects. They were initially stopped on 104 for an equipment violation. They then fled south on 104, went eastbound on 316 into South Bloomfield, where they ultimately struck a house, struck a porch that was on the house. The officers were assisted by South Bloomfield Police, Highway Patrol, in taking the suspects into custody out of that. Ultimately, at least less lethal weapons had to be used as one of them was uncooperative at the time. So again, both of these cases where true bills were given on that. This year we had an uptick in the amount of people that's ran from the police. I don't know if it's something in the weather or what. I think they're used to dealing with agencies that normally won't chase on matters like that. And we've had a pretty good rate of catching people fleeing from us down here and everything. So I think doing that does send a signal that we're just not going to tolerate, stuff like that going on. We're not going to turn a blind eye and you're gone. In addition, I've assembled a written exam that I'm going to give out to post the sergeant positions. They'll have to successfully pass the written exam with this. It's going to have questions related to decision-making, policies, legal, training and mentoring of subordinate officers, and other material that'll be on there. We're establishing a study guide to go along with it. That way they understand what the test will encompass. I think it was important to put in a written test out there, just establish that people we select have the knowledge and the foundation to go into supervising others to keep our liabilities down. I didn't just want to post and be like, okay, you've been here the longest, so you're the sergeant. So I think we need to show that there's competency, in the officers that would be selected for that. Also, I want to talk about over the past few months, officers have been involved in multiple trainings. This has included active shooter scenario training. This training was in cooperation with the Pickaway Sheriff's Office, in which simulation firearms were used to instill stress and shot placement during these types of scenarios. In addition, we had not only our regular firearms certification for the year, additional training was included in that, to where there was night shooting scenarios, also shooting from and around vehicles, since that's mostly what a lot of our activities is around is traffic stops. So that presents different scenarios that we can encounter other than just facing off with a static paper target, putting our holes in and go, okay, you passed the state minimum qualifications, so, go about your day. In addition to that, we have an officer that this week is attending first line supervisor training at the Ohio Peace Officers Training Academy. Next month, we're sending at least one, possibly two officers. They'll be going to the OSP Academy for narcotics interdiction. This will include like how to locate hiding spots, things like that in vehicles that's commonly used. So we are sending officers to advanced training and stuff than just, the basic training that is required. With that, I hope going into next year, there's some other trainings that we're looking forward to send the officers to, now that we have enough staff to where we can effectively send officers off to go do additional training. It's been kind of hard in the past when we were operating bare bones to be able to do that. It's hard to send somebody off to training and then making other officers and stuff having to work overtime to keep an officer out on the road. Tonight, there's also some legislation and other that's on the agenda. A couple items for the police department tonight. The first is confirmation officer Lucas Forte. Sent my recommendation and just want to reiterate, I am recommending with that recommendation to keep Officer Forte here. During his probationary time, he has performed and grown into a good officer. He completes tasks that are required, puts together reports accurately, arrives on time, and other attributes that is making him a good officer for this agency. Also, there is a request tonight to move monies for radio equipment. This was a planned item that I was looking at to going into 2026 originally. I had no intent of looking at doing it this year. However, when I reached out to get the quote to start putting together for next year, the sales rep from Motorola advised and sent the information of the incentives that makes it more cost effective to make us purchase this year instead of next year. Basically, in short, by purchasing it before December 10th, we're going to get 40% savings on the walkies devices. Now, that's not the programming that goes into it. That's not the accessories like batteries and stuff like that. That's on the radios. But if we purchase it this year, we're going to save about $20,000 over waiting a couple more months to go ahead and purchase it. So again, that's why I did requested it this year to try to save. To me, $20,000 is a significant amount of money. So I think it would be more cost effective to do it now than putting it off until the next year's regular budget, just with that cost savings. Reason why I requested those, our radios that we currently have are, think of them like your cell phone. Cell phones last a couple years, 2 or 3 years, till you still start having problems with them. Radios, you get about 5 or 6 years service is when they recommend changing them out. Some of our radios are actually approaching 10 years. And we're now starting to see some problems where, like, you'll go to key the radio up, it's not hitting a tower, it's delaying. To me, that's an officer safety issue. So I'd like to go ahead and look at remedying that. I don't want to get to where we have radios that are failing out in the field, because that could be a significant issue for our officers. And the radio equipment I'm looking at is online with what Pickaway County is using for their deputies. I figure instead of trying to reinvent the wheel and look at everything, their system, go with the walkies that they're using. That way it matches up to the system that's in place, because that's ultimately who dispatches us. Lastly, the mayor actually already hit on doing looking at the contract with Wheelan. This is for our GPS services for the cars. What was originally done was, when the contract was passed, they put like a limit, like 5 cars at this price, so this is what we would spend. I'm recommending the same thing that we ran into Axon with our body cams and our taser devices, removing that limit. That way, as we add a car, the mayor has the authority, or the village administrator, just to sign, okay, add the car. We're talking $360 annually per vehicle, so we're not looking at tens of thousands of dollars for every time we add a vehicle on it. So that's, again, she kind of already brought that up about the special meeting for that. Other than that, that's all I have, unless you all have anything.
I want to thank the chief and the officers. We've had some complaints about speeding and kids at the crosswalks and stuff, and they've done a really good job of someone being at the school, sitting at the crosswalk for the kids to cross over 762. So I want to thank him for doing that. We put speed trailers in other places where we've had issues, and so we're really taking those emails that come in to us seriously and trying to do the best we can. So I want to thank you.
Thank you. So what that tells me is Officer Bynor's 100% in pursuits, but he can't drive slow, right?
Yeah, the whole slow thing.
Okay, I just checking. Nothing else.
Okay, I have the village administrator's report. We have hired a new employee, Randy Yarberry. He comes to the village with Water 1 license. Randy will be working on obtaining additional licenses. Water average daily flow is 525,000 a day. Sewer average daily flow is 364,000 a day. We are fine-tuning our new sewer plant. The employees are being trained on all the new equipment that makes up this new plant. We are hoping to have it completely operational by the end of October. The pumps in well 8 and 9 are being cleaned up and repaired. This will allow more water flow into the plant. The street department has removed the U.S. flags from around the village. We will budget for all new flags in next year's budget. We ordered a school zone sign to be placed on Walker Point Drive as you're approaching the intersection from West Scioto Street. We received a quote for a new LED speed sign for Bora Road. Cleaned and prepared the vehicles for winter and continuing to mow and trim around the village. Any questions? Okay, moving on. Village engineers report.
Good evening. Just a couple items I wanted to bring up tonight. First being our Chestnut Commons, the drainage study. We have started that part 2 portion of the study. We're working to prepare a drawing showing those improvements. I'd estimate maybe the 3rd week of October, we'll be reaching out to meet with the HOA at the subdivision and also the adjacent property owner. So that's progressing. And then the last item, Belshazzar. We're working on those plans, hoping to have a final plan set ready for the village to look over probably first part of November. We'll gather any comments, make the changes, and then we can go out to bid. End of the year, first part of next, hopefully get some good bids. and we can build that project in 2026. Any questions for me?
I do with the with the Chestnut thing. Was that an us screw up way back when, or was that a farmer's? How did that all happen? Because I just it didn't just magically appear.
I wouldn't say it was an us or them. I think just over time, the way things were constructed and the amount of stormwater during those heavy rain events, which you can never accommodate, every rain event.
Right.
If you go for like the 25-year storm, you can't really accommodate that 100-year onslaught. So when you have those really major events, the system just struggles to keep up. What we're looking to do is add some other amenities that can help capture that first flow and hold it. And then that way it will flow. It won't be that onslaught and the heavy erosion in what we're seeing today during those major events. That's
So
what we're hoping.
this shouldn't happen again moving forward because we've learned, or is it just something that could always be?
I think with the improvements we're planning and hoping to make, we won't see those issues in the future.
Okay.
With other subdivisions around, we don't really have that off-site runoff the way we do with this particular subdivision. So yeah, I think with our improvements, people will be happy.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, anything else? Thank you.
Thank you. Zoning administrators report. You'll receive that for the cow. Jim here?
Yeah.
Oh. Anybody have any questions for Jim?
We have a slight little problem, and that is that in the ordinance that was passed about ponds and irrigation and everything in 2025-01, we need to add into there a time frame for the operation of the pumps. It just says, I think, in general in there, just a time frame. That's all they're doing.
Right, but isn't that, yeah, I mean, if we don't specify otherwise, it would be 24 hours a day from that day to that day. So that's why we did
There's
it.
nothing in there that I can do that says 24 hours a day.
Well,
It
that's,
just says whatever time it is. So,
Says it has to be on.
pardon,
It's 24 hours a day.
it doesn't say
There's no timer.
right,
If you're
but
requiring them to have an aerator and a pump,
it's
24/7.
But if it says whatever time, how do I enforce that?
There's no time in the statute. That means it's constant.
Okay,
If you want to amend it to say 9 to 5, is that what you're asking?
I'm asking if we can amend it and make it from 6 in the morning till 9 at night.
You can amend it to say whatever you want, but as it sits right now, it's 24/7 for the months that it's required to operate.
I just want to make sure that if they aren't going, I need to enforce it. I got some kind of teeth I can enforce it.
Statute says it shall operate.
All right.
Jim, I have a question though about those ponds.
Yeah.
We have a zoning code that says that those ponds have to be wrapped with riprap around them. That's one of the issues that we're running into in Chestnut Commons is the erosion is washing the banks out even around the houses. But I see these new ponds going in over here and none of them's got the dump rock around them.
I think there's some that haven't, but not all. I think that is an issue, if it is, and it is in our code.
isn't that an engineer?
Huh?
Wouldn't that be,
The engine.
I guess the plans I've approved of recent, they include it. I can't speak, I guess, prior plans, but yeah, it is included in what I've seen recent.
I guess that's the thing I'm kind of worried about though, like, part of Foxfire doesn't have it, but we're going into the new phases, and if we're going to enforce it there, why didn't we enforce it on the front side?
Well, part of that probably is the fact that we didn't have this zoning code until
2018.
September of 18. And Foxfire, those plans had probably, I'm guessing at the time, but I think those probably had been approved by then, so that could be a contributor.
Anything else? Fiscal officers report? Nothing. The street department report, this is something I asked Mike to send everyone. I just emailed it to everyone so I wouldn't have to read all that. So you, anybody's welcome to get it, but that was his report. Legislative reports, Ralph?
The only thing I have is the curbs and gutters in Chestnut Commons are busting up really bad. We have one part of the road that's actually bubbling in the storm drain. If we could get the street department over to look at it and see maybe what he thinks about it.
Get us addresses, so we can have our.
It's all over the neighborhood over there. I can get addresses, but there's about 7 or 8 places it's busting up really bad.
Those, and we'll get them to the street department and we'll go out and take a look.
Ross?
Nothing at this point.
Sarah?
Nothing.
Eric?
It pains me that I have to have something, but until today, I didn't feel like people knew what was going on, but in a public forum, I was accused of using my handicap, and I quote, being crippled in a wheelchair for personal gain. And I have never in my life used my handicap. I've never had a new wheelchair. I buy mine from dead people. I mow my own grass with a push mower. I flipped it. I mean, I'll take a lot of things and not say anything and take the high road. But when somebody accuses me of an unchristian act that would actually be a felony, I have to stand up and address it. This was said at the Board of Elections meeting. I have a copy of the interaction, or I wouldn't speak on it. I didn't know that the story was going to come out, or the people said Facebook has been popping. I put in a write-in. I have been praying on whether to run again or not. We found out my wife retires in 4 years. So if I was able to extend, it would put me finished in December when she retires from 32 years in Tays Valley Schools in June. And then we're going to be off enjoying the fruits of her labor. So when I put it in for this seat that I'm in, I went to the then director and assistant director and said, this is a flawed form because you're using one form to declare as a write-in for state offices and local offices. I said, it says take to your local county if local, and then the other. So I said, which of these 2 lines do I put? It says seat, and I put Commercial Point Council. If it's a state one, you have to put township, county, and everything, because I don't know if you're aware, but I think every county has a Scioto Township, it seems. And they told me to wait. They got an opinion that I assume was the Secretary of State. They told me how to fill it out. I did. It was approved, and I was elected. Fast forward 2 years to this time, and I filled it out the exact same way that I was told from their opinion, and it was turned away and said it was not proper. So I emailed and requested a copy of my one from 2023, and they sent it to me, and I put them together in an email, sent an email to the Board of Elections, and I said, I'm just curious as to why this was changed from 2 years ago, as it was at the then director and assistant director got an opinion, and that's how I filled it out, and now it's not good. I just asked for, past precedent and reconsideration based on these facts. And that was it. Didn't call, didn't just send an email. Well, it was insinuated that I went down and looked like a cripple in a wheelchair, probably had torn clothes and looked like a vagabond, I don't know, and went and put on puppy dog eyes, and I played him. And that's a quote, I played him. No. My son wanted to run because he said that everybody says what the younger generation wants, yet there's nobody on there to speak. And I wasn't going to run as a write-in to extend because I didn't want to, hurt my son, which has told me that if he gets elected, he'll school me if I need it. So there is that. But I told God, I said, if I'm supposed to do this, let me know. I find out that there aren't enough candidates running. So I took that as my sign. I became a write-in, and then we went through this process. In no way, shape, or form am I going to ruin my almost 20 years of credibility as a police officer, my last 11 in this county. Am I going to risk it for a public service job that pays $75 a meeting? I think last year I got a check for $1,400. So I've been accused on Facebook of getting extra money and payoffs. They must keep that and give it to me when I'm done, because I still struggle to pay my $438 electric bill. I didn't want to address this, but when I called the mayor and I told her, what I was told and what's going on, and I said, this is going to happen. And then they came out today, and I knew that I had let this Holy Spirit put it on my heart to speak about it. And then today with the events, it just solidified that I can't be quiet this time. I can't take the high road. I have to address it, because my family's been in this town since before it was Commercial Point. They started it. My whole family has served as council and mayor, police, and I just can't let it happen. So I don't know why a family has chosen me as the one to beat on, but if that's what Commercial Point wants, then I'll resign and you can get beat on. But I just want everybody to know I will never use my handicap to gain anything. That is all.
Dustin?
No.
Jay?
No, nothing.
Okay, committee reports. Park and Recreation. Sarah?
Yeah. So I'm currently the only person on the Park and Recreation Committee at the moment.
I thought you resigned. Oh.
I did resign. I sent a letter to council to resign, since I'm the only Park and Rec member right now. And I just think it's the right thing to do, so we can move forward in a different way with the Park and Rec committee and keep it going, and maybe get some more community members involved going forward. So we will work on that.
Can we have discussion?
Sure.
We have we still have one thing coming up for this year. And without a committee, really, it's going to fall on us other council members to do it, because we have the mayor can't be. So I don't know if this is the time, but I'd like to make a formal motion to disband the park committee and put it on the council for any public events. I don't want people that are just running that maybe aren't in tune to feel overwhelmed to do, all that stuff. Nancy started it. It was her passion, and she drug everybody along for her passion, but now she can't do it. So I think in the best interest of the community and other people that want to do things, I make a motion that we just stop the Parks Department, and we can revisit it when we look next year, if the new council wants it. But for now, I think for ease of doing things, I just think we should disband it for the remainder of 2025.
We only have one event left. Why would we even disband it now and then have to maybe redo it next year?
Well, we have to redo them every year anyway. We have to decide if we want. And the problem is, without a committee, there's really nobody to take charge that day. Because if the mayor does it, then that's her doing it, and then it could get into a rules thing. And I just think it's the cleanest thing to do. And that's just my opinion. That's why there's 6 of us.
So if you disband it, who's going to do it?
Well, at that point, we could all say, if Nancy's willing, or if Paula's willing, we can choose anybody that day, and it's not going to be against any possible rules, ordinances, or anything like that if the mayor and other people want to.
So we have Halloween and Christmas coming up.
Well, Halloween just happened.
Halloween just happened. We have
Oh, we have
Christmas.
Saturday,
that
so we
was-
have Christmas left.
And it started off with Wendy and Paula always did the Christmas. It started off with them. So I would just ask, there's one more event, unless there's anybody here that wants to step up and help do that, these two know how it goes. So.
It's up to them.
And I, of course, will donate my time because that's what I like to do. So there's a motion on the floor to abolish it. Is there a second? Okay. And we don't have a Christmas event. It's unfortunate.
Motion fails.
Oh, okay. There you go. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I'm sorry. That's so precious to me. I was like, no. Okay. Okay, yeah. I was about to. That's the favorite part of the time. Okay, good. I'd be pulling you up. You're coming. Okay, so land use committee, any updates on that?
Yeah, we have a gentleman who's going to be here tonight. It was set up by Mr. Weaver, and when the land use committee was meeting, it seemed to be weekly to start this project. We had came on the map and what things were going to be, and we had said that we need to have areas that are buffer zones, which would be our MFA or whatever. But then our homes, we heard what everybody was saying, and we just thought that the bigger lots and less density as being the status quo as a committee is kind of where we were. And so I brought up in the Cal meeting of possibly changing the quote standard to 3 homes for the one residential and 2 for the other. And if they want more than that, they would come as a planned district to protect all of the assets that we all have. So that is the direction that the land use committee with the public's input felt it was going to go. And I just wanted to put it out there so that if, as you're listening to this gentleman, know that this is something we've thought about. And then if you don't think, we would love to hear people that live in Commercial Point's voices so that we can truly get our fingers on a pulse of what Commercial Point residents are saying, and hear it from their own mouths. So I don't know if we're going to move forward with that or not. We just wanted to kind of give everybody a heads up that we feel maybe moving in that direction is the best thing for the village. And instead of people coming in and starting at 4 per acre of net developable, let's start them at 2 or 3. And if they want more, they're going to have to may I per se, whatever council is there then. Because let's face it, we all spend our life building our fortune. And when it's time for us to cash out, we've all been disturbed by all the people moving in. Well, they continue to raise our property values. And when it's time to cash out, let's make sure that the people that are coming in that maybe you don't think you want, when it's time to cash out, there's a dividend. So we would love to hear anybody, if they have input on that decision. And that's all.
Okay, now we're going to move on to public comments. Everyone has 5 minutes to speak. You can state your name and address. And the first one up is Jason West.
Jason West, 178 Rosewood Loop, Southeast. And good evening. I chose to speak about the village administrator position tonight. I had originally prepared a different speech tonight, one focused on my campaign as well as addressing recent events that have transpired against my campaign efforts. But in the current situation with the village, I feel that the issue that takes precedence for both the village and Commercial Point and its residents is this village administrator. It's something that impacts all of us, regardless of politics. The village of Commercial Point currently has an open village administrator position, a role that is essential for managing day-to-day operations and long-term planning. According to the village's own financial reports, Our water, sewer, and road departments bring in millions annually. I think close to $6 million, maybe a little bit more. Yet the administrative position is part-time and budgeted for around $24,000 a year. For comparison, a single road department position budgeted for 2025 is $75,000. That kind of pay gap makes it nearly impossible to attract qualified candidates for such a critical role as you have recently experienced. The administrator oversees operations that affect every resident, from our infrastructure and safety to economic development and regulatory compliance. Putting the responsibilities of this additional role on our fiscal officer is just not acceptable. Recently, advice was given to council and the administration suggesting that the village administrator job is not yet ready for full-time employment. Frankly, that notion is laughable and out of touch with reality. With millions of dollars flowing through our departments and a growing population that depends on effective oversight, the idea that this position doesn't warrant full-time attention defies common sense. The workload and responsibility are already there. What's missing is our commitment to fill it properly. What's even more concerning is the idea of merging the village administrator role with the village solicitor role. In my opinion, doing so would effectively remove one of the most important safeguards in our local government, the system of checks and balances. The administrator manages day-to-day operations and executes policy, while the solicitor provides independent legal oversight. Combining those duties concentrates too much authority in one office and undermines transparency and accountability. This position and the structure around it must be taken seriously. I believe the village council and administration should review this pay structure, restore proper separation of duties, and raise the starting salary to at least $75,000, what we're paying our road worker. And that's how to attract and retain the kind of qualified professional who can manage our growing community with integrity, expertise, and respect for the process. Leadership means recognizing when something is too important to ignore. Tonight, I chose to set aside my personal politics to talk about what truly matters: accountability, stability, and protecting the system of our governance that keeps our village strong. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Ricky Baldwin?
Ricky Baldwin, 62 Front Street. I'll be real quick. A few months ago, I spoke on respect and us as a village and the council having respect for one another. And that has tremendously changed. I have to say that there's been a lot more respect coming from your end, which in return I'm giving, as I said I would, my respect from all but one. There's been one council member who repeatedly goes to other meetings, speaks on the community's behalf, when after doing digging does not speak on our behalf on these meetings, tells village members that he does not represent them, even though they are a member of the village, whether he likes them or not. He's an elected official, and you represent who elects you, i.e. Village of Commercial Point. Has used derogatory terms to speak to members of the village, as in derogatory terms that are considered hate words in this day and age. And now, same said council member has used his words at another meeting to call somebody a cripple and say the Board of Elections has played a game. I might be the only one, but Mr. Jay Weaver has a problem with running his mouth at council meetings, at village people, and at meetings where he says he represents our best interest and what we stand for. At a meeting he has no business speaking on our behalf, because he was not there in the capacity of a council member. He was there in the capacity of Jay Weaver. The other things he had said was blatant and outright lies. It's been proven. And I'm here tonight to say that that should not be allowed on our council. These kind of things should not be allowed to represent us as a community. No matter who's sitting in the mayor, no matter who's sitting on council, no matter who's bringing it before them or saying the things, should never be spoken to as a village member. And we should never have to worry about a council member using somebody's disability as a derogatory slang when they speak about them, whether they like them or not. I personally can say I didn't vote for Jay Weaver, and I can say I won't. That's my own personal opinion. But something needs to be done about this because there is a common denominator in all these equations, and his name is Jay Weaver.
Okay, Elizabeth Fleming.
Well, I'll try not to be as dramatic, but Elizabeth Fleming, 11729 Gibson Road. I just want to bring up something that Eric said about the growth and development of Commercial Point. So I don't specifically live in Commercial Point, but I live about a mile away. My address, Gibson Road, it's no secret. I've been to a couple meetings. So I would like to voice that, yes, having less volume is definitely preferred. I think enough people have shown up to a lot of these meetings to let you guys know that many, many times. So we've discussed concerns of overabundance and saturating this community ad nauseum. But here I am again to voice my concern because a lot of these developments do impact not just Commercial Point, but the surrounding areas, i.e. Gibson Road, i.e. Asheville, the school system, all that stuff that's been brought up before. So yes, please take our opinions as, we do not want a lot of growth and development. I understand that developers do have a right, and I'm glad that you all fight for that right. I would say that that's, what you should be doing. But I also would like to bring about where's the loyalty to the agriculture in this area? Where's the loyalty to the school system, the bus drivers, the teachers, the aides, and many more? The school district has not publicly, at least, been part of any of these conversations as I know of. But I would urge that all of you look into that and see what's going on because they need to be brought into these conversations as well. Eric, you brought that up, that the volume is a concern. So I would say that school system, Taste Valley specifically, I have 2 children within the school system. It is a problem. It's not a secret. You can look at it on Facebook or you can just go to the schools and see that there is a problem. This also impacts our safety. Again, it saturates the schools and it's all in the name of money and people making quick money. I just want to ask that those involved look beyond the money and take a pause to reflect on the consequences of developing to those magnitudes that have been proposed before. We sit here and listen month after month as this council and township trustees talk about growth, road agreements, and we all know which properties we're kind of talking about. I've been coming to these meetings for about 6 months now, and these issues have been brought up over and over and over again. What I don't see is anything being addressed. We definitely had a road survey, and it highlighted several issues that need to be addressed before any growth is taken specifically on Gibson Road, and that has not been addressed. I'm not understanding why this village is so concerned with one property being developed when, again, we have so many other issues that need to be dealt with that have been brought up. I just urge that you all do the jobs you've been voted for to do, and certainly hope that the election coming up brings about some change if that needs to be. Maybe better directions or, perhaps the visions that have been discussed here tonight. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Peck.
Steve Peck, 4131 Worth Avenue. Here in regards to the second readings for the plats for Foxfire, I was just going to request, if possible, if you all would consider reading those as an emergency to waive the third reading. Obviously up to you. We run into an issue on the back end of these communities in Pickaway County where ADP and the Pickaway County engineer will not allow easements and those things to be documented until the plat's recorded. It just costs us a few months getting the electric run. So if it would save us a month and a half getting electric in the new phases, if that's something that you all would consider. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Courtney Denton.
Courtney Denton, 212 Kavanaugh Drive, here in Commercial Point. I just am up here to sort of echo Ricky's sentiment. This may be frowned upon, but I too, actually like Eric, I'm very Christian, very in my faith. I also prayed about how things would happen and running for council. I am one of those write-in candidates as well that was reconsidered. I personally took offense to the comment that you made, basically saying that I was allowed in because of Eric's disability. Personally, I think I called the BOE before anyone. Their meeting wasn't even out and I was on the phone with attorneys. It had nothing to do with Eric's disability and everything to do with legal precedent that was set. It was a legal matter. They have to follow laws, and that's what happened. I don't know why anyone who is on a council would want less people to be able to run and represent their community. That's what this country is founded on, free and fair elections. And basically, you didn't want them approved because I'm just going to be blatant. You guys wanted an easy, clear path. I know people were quoted at Meet the Candidate night in the crowd saying, I'm not going to participate because I'm running unopposed. At that time, they were. I wasn't allowed to be there. If I was a write-in, if I had already been approved, I absolutely would have been there, unopposed or not. And I'm going to take a moment to play the comment, the audio that everyone is talking about. It's not very loud. Oh, no, what happened? Now we can't hear it. Very good. But his quote, to be exact, was that Eric was crippled and in a wheelchair. He came down here, and I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. Meaning exactly what Eric said. We were reinstated because of Eric's disability. I personally am going to call for Jay's resignation. I think it's ridiculous that we would have someone in this community like that representing us. Agree with what Ricky said, that in every instance in this community, when somebody is up at the county or at the township, it's Jay. He's been in multiple altercations, multiple arguments with different people at the county level as well as the community, and I personally do not think it's acceptable.
Corey Losness.
Thank you. My name is Corey Wassmus, 12930 Gibson Road. I wasn't going to speak about that tonight, but I feel like I'm probably obligated to because I happen to be in the middle of a lot of that.
You're standing right there.
Right.
You're standing there.
And first of all, I want to say, Eric, you do not need to defend yourself because myself being probably one of Eric's most biggest opponents months back, I think we've started to understand each other. I have a lot of respect for Eric, as I do all of you here, even you, Jay. I mean, everybody on this board serves their community. But I'll tell you what, that man has nothing, it doesn't have to make any excuse. He's very intelligent. I love talking with him. We still have many disagreements, as do probably me and most of the people here, if not all of you, on different issues. But there was no reason to, and I was there, Jay, and I think some of what you said you made sense, a lot of things that you said. You know, I felt like they should have had a reason to speak for what they were there for. They should have had time to speak. But at the same time, I recall in June when there was a moment where we wanted to speak as a community, and you were one of two, you and I believe Mr. Krigo, could be wrong. I believe it was the two that voted no to not let us speak. So I just, the Lord does have a way of doing things. Not saying God did any of this to any of us, but I think it is an eye-opening moment, if not a come to Jesus moment for you, I think for all of us. So I think we can become better through this and a stronger community through that. But I want to speak, hopefully I got a couple minutes left. What I mainly came to speak on tonight was the proposed gas station fuel center. I'm not going to say the other thing. It's been swirling around because I actually don't think it is anything other than a fuel center gas station. I'll say it that way. Because I talked to a lot of different community members about this being proposed at the corner of 762 and 104. And the number one thing keeps coming up, traffic and possibly crime, hours of operation, things like that. And I will say, the developer actually reached out to me. I've never met him before the last meeting. And walking away from that conversation, I felt my worries were a little bit less concerned. But most importantly, you guys hold the cards. He can say, or they can say whatever they want and make us happy, like he made me feel like, hey, this might not be so bad after all. But unless it's in writing, it doesn't count for anything. You hold the cards, you give them every drop of water. And if they don't get the water and the sewage, it cannot proceed. So if you vote to approve that, just remember, you hold the cards till the deal is done at the very end, and you hold the cards for this community. Last thing I'll say, I know that you was asked tonight to do away with the third reading. A lot of people don't understand what readings are. Readings mean it's the community's opportunity to hear what's going on and to speak. So I believe the community has every right to hear all three readings every time it comes up. There should never be a point when you do away with readings and do an emergency vote, because all that means is when somebody asks to do away with readings, is to say, can you let the public speak less? Can you let the public listen less, know less? Reading should always be a part of the process. The community is number one. And to do away with readings, I think, is a horrible mistake. So I would say we'll never get rid of readings. It's the public's voice which should be the strongest in this community. I know most, if not all of you, agree with that. Thank you.
Wendy Sizemore?
Wendy Sizemore, 8960 State Route 762, Orion, Ohio. First thing I want to address real quick as a farmer is that 2 to 5 to 10 acre lots like you see in the township does not preserve farmland. It in fact wastes farmland. Dense development is what preserves farmland. It's that simple. You're going to have as many people as you're going to have, but if your concern is genuinely agricultural preservation, then you want dense development. And I think that's why in recent history that we've had more dense development with the shared green space versus the urban sprawl that is eating up the farmland. I actually ran off and left my notes, so I'm going to wing it on the next part. And that is the road services agreement with the township. If any of you are unaware, the township's attorney explained to them in July what you guys needed to do to make a bulletproof road services agreement. And the first thing I think that you need to understand is this is not an agreement between the village and the township. This is an agreement where the village is agreeing to meet a minimum standard of the state. It's that simple. And their own attorney told them if you guys were willing to put that language in your road services agreement, that they could object to it, but they would lose because they would have no standing in court. They couldn't appeal it because the courts wouldn't allow them to even have standing. Now, if you wanted to do more for the township, you're always welcome to do more. But if you don't meet that minimum standard anyway that is in the Ohio Revised Code for the Type 2 annexation, it doesn't matter what you agree to with the township, the county can still reject it if it doesn't meet that minimum standard. So I would like, if any of you guys are unaware of exactly what that wording is, that it was in the July meeting with the township. Pete Griggs is their attorney, and Pete happened to also mention in that meeting that he has appealed that law twice and lost. That is how bulletproof it is. So I'd like to also say this about that. For the 390 acre development, we have over 1,200 acres. That's 390 acres. We're still going to have more property in the township than the village. So when we're talking about what we feel is fair about a road services agreement, we're probably one of the only parties here that would be hurt more by doing something unfair because we do still have more property and pay more taxes in the township. And there's one other thing I'd like to say. Most of the people that have showed up here and objected to the Struckman Farms development are the people on Gibson Road, almost exclusively. And I want to give you some other reasons other than the ones that they have outwardly stated for objecting to this development. And one is that they regularly use our farm as recreation land. They ride their four-wheelers on it, trespass on it, use it for a driving range, any number of things. But they're actually using our farm for their recreation. So there's more than schools and roads involved here. You want to meet me down there tomorrow morning? I'll show you where they cut from their property onto ours with their recreational vehicles. They also hunt. If you want to talk about scary, you have people hunting there. I take their tree stands down on the back side of that 100 acres on the west side of the road. Probably get out through there tomorrow morning and take down tree stands that I promise you are not ours. And can probably show you the tracks of exactly whose house they come from. So I would like you to keep that in mind. We also have the farm here on Commercial Point Road, and some of you are aware of what that means to have a farm next to houses. They plant gardens in the fields, they put their playground equipment in the fields, they plant trees in the fields, they take our fence down and tell us it's for our own good. There's two sides to every story, and I would just really ask that you guys keep that in mind, that some of these objections are not what they appear on the surface. And again, I believe those July meetings where you can hear Pete Griggs, the township attorney, talk about the road services agreement, that should be listed on the official Commercial Point Forum, where you can hear for yourself what you need to do to make a bulletproof road services agreement. Thank you.
Daniel Worth.
Hello, my name is Daniel Worth. I'm at 415 Cherry Hills Drive over in Foxfire. My concern is the fuel station. I feel that fuel station or 24-hour truck stop. My concern is I don't think you guys have really thought about what bringing in here. If you look at the noise, you're going to have to figure out how to mitigate the noise to the residents there. You're going to have to look about air pollution. 24-hour trucks sitting there idling all night long. You're going to have air brakes. You're going to have multiple backup alarms. Like, this is going to actually change that community. It's going to bring down property values. It absolutely will. And I will not be able to charge what they are charging for houses right now. Crime. Your chief of police has already said they're bringing in narcotics up in 104. It's a new trafficking highway. Now you're going to give them a stop in a small community. Prostitution. Per the government stats for 2024, 37% prostitution encounters have happened at truck stops. So you're giving an ability to bring this into a small community. That's pretty much what I want to say. I implore you to really think about what they're trying to put in and how it will affect you.
Thank you.
Chuck Lang.
Who told you the truck stop? You know, not Facebook, the drawings on there? Yeah, but can you tell me who set the truck stop? Facebook. Something in here, but what I'm saying is.
Chuck Lang.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
We are very new to the community, so what I'm saying is, what's out there on social media, is what what's out there on social media.
Okay.
Hey, folks, it's an organized meeting. It's not a debate. I think she's calling on the next person to come up and speak.
Okay, you calling me?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay, first of all, it's not gonna be a truck stop. Never was. Every time I came in here, never was a truck stop. Like, the people that's been here, you know I said that. There's gonna be no idling in the trucks. There's gonna be cameras all over this place. I'm gonna try to get the police to come in. If I can give them free coffee, I'm gonna have it for kids, you know, not just them. I'm talking about highway patrolmen and everybody, because I want the police to be there so to be safe. I want a bunch of cameras there. I'll make sure, you know, the last property I had 130 cameras on my property. I can prove it. The thing's gonna be covered in cameras. I'll make sure there's lighting. I'm gonna put a mount all the way around this place.
We'll put pine trees around to block the lighting and the sound. We can put a vinyl fence on top of the mound, so it doesn't cause lighting problems like the big warehouses that everybody built down there. It's gonna be less lighting down there, going farther away, less sound and everything else. The only thing it's gonna be is fueling station. I'm not gonna put up no darn semis coming there parking for, prostitution or anything. I will not do that because I live right down the road. I got 6 kids. They go to Tage Valley. I donated all the signs at Tage Valley also. I put all the signs in Tage Valley for free. I charge them for the parts. That's it. All 3 signs of the softball field, the football field, I donated all that. I'm for the community. I'm gonna set up a thing, for, that you guys can put a sign down there on the corner of the property where you guys can put a sign down there, welcome Commercial Point, and it'd be my expense. There will not be any expense for the taxpayers, 100%. I'm gonna put, like for Tage Valley fundraisers, when my kids go to Tage Valley, they're gonna be in there for a long time. I'm gonna put like a little building there where they can do car washes if the village allows it. I'm gonna have like where they can sell their products and stuff there. I'm for the community. I'm not one of these big companies like, I'm not gonna say names, but I'm for you guys. I'm not for just, for myself. I'm here to, make sure it's good for all of you.
Give us your name. You never-
Oh, Chuck Lang. I'm sorry. I'm new at this.
Okay.
I don't read from a phone.
It's not gonna be a.
Yeah, 2 minutes and 40 seconds. This is his time to talk.
Okay. It's gonna be just for fueling only. There's not gonna be long time parking. There's not gonna be idling. There's not gonna be anything there that will cause me trouble. I don't want drugs. I'd hate drugs. I don't want prostitution there. I don't want anything illegal activity. Because I'm gonna stop it. I'm not gonna put up with any of that kind of behavior. I'm just not. And I'm gonna watch it. I live right down the road. I'm gonna buy that place every time. If I see something, and I'm gonna have my kids working there. I'm gonna have local people working there. I don't want, outsiders. I'm gonna try to help the community. And also you guys will be making more tax revenue. It'll help the community. And anything I can do for you guys, I'll do it. I'm here for the community. And my kids go to these schools and everything else. And I do worry about the drugs and everything else and everything, just like all the parents do. I got 6 kids, but also I'm tired of I live down there. I'm tired of driving every place to go get a thing of milk or a bread, or my kids want to get a pop, or, we're out of something. I'm just trying to make it better for the community. And I promise you, I'll make a sound barrier. I'll make it where the lighting doesn't bother nobody. Compared to the factories over there or the warehouses, I'm gonna make it, it's gonna be like a Sheetz. I'm not gonna cut no corners on nothing. You guys, I'll put it all in writing. And if I don't do what I say, you don't give me no water or sewer, and I don't get no occupancy permit. Plain and simple. I just don't wanna spend, I'm not a big corporation. I work hard. I do epoxy floors. I do excavating. I just want a future for my kids. That's what I'm doing. I'm not a corporation. I don't want to spend, $100,000 doing a traffic study. I already got probably $40,000 lawyer fees. I don't want to spend all this money and then come back in here and then I can't do it. I can't afford it. It's just, and if I do it, if I don't do what you guys want me to do and what I say, don't let me build it. It's this simple. I just need to know if I can build it or not. That's it. And I'm talking from here. I don't want to read a phone. So, that's all I got to say. Anybody has any questions, you can ask me. I'll be open and transparent. And I don't want to cause anybody trouble. If it's going to cause trouble, I don't want to build it. But someone's going to build it. It's going to be a corporation that don't
5 minutes
care.
is up.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to business items. Up first is the confirmation for Officer Forte. Anyone have any questions?
I've been probably one of the most unspoken about Officer Forte, and as I brought my concerns, it appears that the chief and his training officers have made a change. So I would like to move to confirm.
I have a discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So Nancy, I had a conversation with you about a month ago, and it seemed like you had a lot of reservations against this confirmation. So what has changed in that month that you're now on board with?
Well, I've talked to the chief, and Officer Bynorth has been with him, a lot, training him. His tickets have all been perfect. He's really improved. I know the one encounter I had was when he first started, that kind of set me off a little bit, but I think that has been, the attitude has gotten better. So from what I've seen in which you've all seen in the evaluations, from talking to the chief and Officer Bynorth, who's been training him, that I think he's progressing. So yeah. That's fine. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ross. Let's do roll call. Eric?
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Dustin,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Jay.
Yes.
Congratulations. Okay, next up, we have the well field presentation.
Is there a time limit on this?
Thanks, Eric. I haven't even said hello.
5 minutes.
Hello, everyone, council. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. I want to start off by saying I know there's a lot of negativity that comes out about council, about the community in general, about the administration, not being forward-thinking, letting growth and development run amok here. Having sat on both sides, I can promise you that's not the case. In fact, if you ask any of my clients or any of the other developers in here, Commercial Point is one of the hardest places to develop because they do hold us accountable and hold our feet to the fire. From the engineering team to the administration team, everything that they have us do is always done to the top tier. Every road that was built in Rickenbacker Exchange was built like a freeway, right? The engineering group, anytime water needs to go in anywhere, they don't cut corners. And that's one of the things that we're here to talk about today. So I know that some of you saw an article recently that came out, I think it was the Columbus Dispatch, talking about how important it is to future plan for water wells as the community grows. So we sit in a unique area over the Taze Aquifer. But while we have a ton of water in the Taze Aquifer, sometimes it can be a little hard to access because of EPA well spacings, etc. The city of Columbus has started to move down south, and they've started that for years. They've been buying wells further and further south for the past, 20-ish years now. In fact, they have a well very close to our current well that supplies all of the Village of Commercial Point's water, which I know, as Nancy mentioned, we're redoing the pumps in that well, so the water capacity is going to increase. But we still have to look towards the future. And in that, the administration, it can be a little difficult because we're competing against the City of Columbus's resources. They all want this area down here. So what the administration had asked my clients to do, which is why I'm up here, specifically KNOVA, was to try to leverage their real estate purchasing power for some particular landowners in the area that weren't really interested in selling what would be a small piece of property to the village to develop a well field. After testing everything in Rickenbacker Exchange, unfortunately, we weren't able to accommodate a well in Rickenbacker Exchange itself. So we started branching out. And over the last 18 months, we've worked really hard to find a good spot to put a well and to do some testing. The village has a really good relationship with a company called Egon and Associates, who's developed all of our well fields that I'm aware of in the past 10 or 15 years. I know Ross has had a lot of experience working with them. And so we put them to the test of where should we look and where should we focus our efforts. And they found a spot. And what we've been able to do is, as part of a much larger land acquisition, is to get an option on some ground that we think has the potential to provide the water for the village for years and years to come. But in order to determine that, a lot of testing has to be done, and it's not cheap testing. And so what we're here to talk about tonight is how do we get to that testing? The village has taken the testing on its back using the water and sewer capital expenses for a long time. They've been drilling pilot and test wells around the area. And it's just money that if the well doesn't work, well, the village has to go find more money to do more development work. And we have always partnered with the village, and we want to continue to do that. So what we would like to do is to go and contract with Egon to work with the engineering team to put together that well plan, and we would pay for it up front. But what we would like to do is for the village council to consider just kind of preemptively approving the expense to be retroactively paid under the TIF associated with the industrial park. The reason we ask that, it's not a cheap expense. Egon has estimated about $450,000 to drill the test wells. So instead of telling the village to drill those test wells, we thought it was best if we do that. Like I said, front the cost ourselves, and then we would just roll that into the current TIF. So that's the idea and the plan. So we're trying to solve problems before they ever happen. The problem is the village of, not the village, I'm sorry, the city of Columbus also wants this property, so we're trying to make sure that we're there before them. So with that said, I know it's kind of a lot of information. For many of you, it may be new as far as the wellfield development goes. Are there any questions?
Does this $450,000 come with any percentage of guarantee of us finding that home run well?
No, unfortunately, there's no guarantees. What we can say is that the aquifer is in the general area, right? So we have our well kind of right here. The city of Columbus has a well right here. We've purchased all of the ground in this area, or at least have an option on it. So we know that we're within proximity. In fact, the city of Columbus's well actually encroaches onto the property that we have an option on by about 150 feet. They put it right on their property line for a reason, right? So the anticipation is that their geological testing found the aquifer in that particular corner, and we're hopeful that it goes on and kind of meanders up. So we think that there's a good potential for 2 to 3 wells, but there's never a guarantee when you go drilling for water. Unfortunately, divining rods are still about the best we have to find a spot to drop a well, and until you put in a casing, we just don't know.
True. Can I ask you a question? Can you do a seismic test?
This is his presentation time, I'm sorry.
Yeah, as far as, I will go ahead and address it since it was made. Many of the tests have been done. The problem is because of the nature of the aquifer and how it froze, that seismic testing can give you false positives. Obviously, we have a positive here. I've been up here a lot. I trade on my credibility with you guys. I'm not going, I try to overpromise. I don't try to do that at all, right? So it's not something that I want to do, and I'm not going to do it today. We're hopeful, but that's also one of the reasons that we're offering to put that capital out front. And as you all know, as my client always belabors me for, the interest rate on our TIF is far lower than any OWDA loan that you're going to find. So if you consider it.
Bruce, this doesn't have anything to do with the production well. This is only for the exploration and drilling of test well.
Yes, so test wells would go in,
Right.
and then they would go ahead and preemptively case the well.
Yeah.
That way they're not, in case it does produce, that way we're not going through and trying to re-sleeve it.
What are we looking at, a 12-inch? Or
I have a proposal for you, Ross, because I knew you would want the specific details. Would you like to read? I knew you would want that. Some of it's over my head. I'm definitely not the engineer. I'm just the guy here giving the idea and hopefully finding a way to finance it for the village without having to dip into the village's own reserves. So it's, yes,
You looked at grant money?
I'm sorry?
Grant money?
Yes, so all of that has been considered, and unfortunately, we can't receive grants on behalf of the village. That would be the village having to go out and find those grants. I think from a development perspective, because again, this is just the well testing. In order to develop the wells, we have a new raw water line that would need to be run in tandem to dual feed the village. So my guess is, I think the last time, because we're kind of near where our other well is. I think the last time a line got put in, it was a few $1 million across.
$670,000 for the line.
For the line, okay. So we'd have to put lines in, pumps, and all of that would then potentially be funded by grants. And the village would work through that, through the engineering team to determine that information. But at this point, it's just the exploration. As far as I know, we haven't been able to find grant money for any of our other exploration. As far as I know, that hasn't occurred. And I know several wells have been drilled in the last few years.
So I'll ask the question that is going to be popular tomorrow. What does Billy Scala have to gain by doing this for the village, where he just invested in the village enough that he wants to see it successful, and he'll recoup the money over time with a little bit of interest because of a council member that's now his attorney got him.
So that's really easy. As I think Chuck was explaining, most of the businesses that come in here and partner with the village, they come in here and partner long term. K-Nova, through the Scala family, has invested tens of millions of dollars in the village and brought a Class A $1 billion development. I know it's not what everyone wants to see, but compared to what could have been there, it is a very nice development. And when it's built out, as we've all seen, and I know there's been conjecture over the years about what the abatements look like, but it's one of those situations where there's a tax abatement for the first 15 years. After year 15, that tax abatement burns off. And for the school and the village, we're looking at $300 to $400 million in taxes in those 15 years, right? On what was otherwise agricultural land that maybe generated $15,000 a year in taxes and would have perpetually without those incentives. So what we have is a family who's very invested, but has also made a lot of money in this village, right? That's no lie. They developed the land, they sold the land at a profit. They've made a lot of money, and they continue to give back to the village. They've given back in infrastructure that they weren't otherwise required to do. They donate to every village organization that asks. They help out everywhere they can, from food drives to school drives to the fireworks for the community. They're not oblivious to the fact that this isn't something that the entire village wanted at the time, and they understand that they have profited here, but they're also trying to continue to partner with the village. They know that their data center land potentially has the capacity to use a good bit of the water capacity that the village of Commercial Point currently has if it goes online. They're solving a problem before it ever happens, and that's what we'll continue to do and what we've done since we started this development. Any other questions? So my ask is today to consider. Obviously, it's a lot of information. We're not asking you to take it on. Now, I will say our option is short. We don't have a lot of time. I'm going to be sending an email out at the end of today or early tomorrow to ask Nancy to consider getting this on the agenda for the special meeting next week. We don't need this ground. We can let the option expire and let it go away. Right now, we're only into it for a little bit of money. But if the village wants us to proceed with the testing, we would either need to know if the village wants to pay for it. Obviously, if the village wants to come out of pocket, it most certainly can to pay for that testing. And we can look at how that would work. Or if the village would allow us to go ahead and go with the testing on our own, we would ask that they pass a resolution, the council passes a resolution at that special meeting to let us know that whatever that expense ends up being, we could utilize the TIF. Bill can verify, but because it's going strictly for public works that specifically impact and improve the development there, it does apply to the TIF. Obviously, if you have further questions for Bill on that regard, he can answer those. But we have verified on our end that it would be TIF applicable. All we're asking is that if we do lay out this $450,000, that you would allow us to recoup it. And I don't quote me on the interest rate because I don't remember it offhand, but it's definitely sub 3%. It's lower than any capital.
2.85.
2 point something.
Yeah, it's 2 point something. But it's definitely lower than 3%. Like I said, I'm not here trying to get an investment back return because we're getting a huge interest rate. We're going to lose money on our capital. So we could put it anywhere and make more than 3% today. It's really just, we're trying to help the village, and we just want your permission to do so.
Bruce, one thing. I think I know the answer. I want to make sure that these folks understand. Why is this important?
So obviously accessing the aquifer, you have a finite land area over top of the aquifer to access it. And over the last 20 years, as I mentioned, Columbus has bought most of the ground over top of the aquifer. We're very limited in space. If we can't hit our ground here, we have to go further and further away. The further and further away we go, the more expensive the pumps are, the more expensive the lines are, and potentially it becomes a situation where we can't even get to it. And that's a question for Ross and the engineer to answer, because they know it much better what happens if you can't get to your water source. But it's not that we don't have the water today, it's looking at the next 2 to 3 generations to make sure that the water is always available. It would also add a secondary, like a redundancy. The idea that is planned is that, say this well went offline, these pumps went offline, we would have a second well with a completely separate line that would allow the plant to be fed even today if there was an issue, instead of having to have an outage of some sort in case the outage lasted longer than our tanks in the sky would allow.
Thanks.
Anything else?
What's our current rate for a loan for the new sewer plant? What kind of interest rate, do you know?
I don't know, I don't talk to my head.
I think the township said they were paying like 4.5, but it was a roads thing, so I figured it'd be the same. So, okay, so we would be saving possibly 1.25% for this loan, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
I don't know what that calculates, 450,000 at 1.25%, APR or whatever. But, so is this something that, Bill, we have to do, or can we have K-Nova's people do it and send it to us to save us money there, or?
Kano is gonna be the driving force for it. They'll send it to us to look at it.
Yeah.
We'll be able to advise you at the Cal meeting what you're looking at.
Well, if he wanted it on for that special meeting before the cow, is that not something you feel comfortable with?
Depends on what I get, and how quickly I get it, sir.
So not a next Thursday night at 7 p.m.?
No, not October 19th. Yeah, right.
We'll do our best to get it to you very quickly. It's going to be a short resolution, to be fair, so I'm not too concerned about it. It'll get to it quickly.
And you're just talking about using TIF money to pay you back.
Yes, and only to pay back the exploration costs, which would be capped at currently under the proposal that we have that Ross is looking at now, which I think is around 450 is what it would be capped at.
Yeah. Does council understand what Bruce is proposing? Do you have any
Yes.
questions?
It doesn't sound like there's a real loss, because we're going to have to spend that money anyways. Am I correct? I mean, we're not spending money to keep punching, but this is strategic versus just two coat hangers walking in a field.
We need the exploration, correct?
So from an engineering standpoint, is this, and obviously I'm putting you on the spot, but is this a good calculated risk from an engineering standpoint?
This is the first I've heard of this, so I haven't seen, I guess, what's proposed for $450,000. That's a large sum of money. But I mean, the exploration is needed. We haven't had success up to this point in finding water in village property.
Do we have the costs that John incurred on the other test wells that were?
And I will say it's the exact same company, and they're not charging us a premium. So it's the exact same company that quoted John previously, and the one that Ross has worked with and the village has worked with for, I think it's like 15 years or so.
We'll get to work on it. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you.
Next up was employee guidelines. This is just simply a motion to change in the employee guidelines, the sergeant position from salary to hourly. That's all we're changing in that. So I just need a motion
So,
by Ross.
Yes.
Second?
Yeah.
Eric?
And this is what we discussed
Yeah,
before.
We
We
changed
just have to
all
make it
the-
official.
yes, yes.
So that
We just have to change it in the employee guidelines, like the pay scale from where it was salary before we had to break everything down and then change that position to sergeants.
So this
That's
this doesn't need an ordinance?
No.
Oh, okay.
Which is just important.
Okay.
Okay, roll call.
Ralph,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Dustin,
yes.
Sarah? Yes. Jay?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Next up is the variance for CR leasing. As we know, council did ask you guys to withdraw your commercial and come in as planned commercial. They have not done so. I did speak with Heath to kind of tell him the issues that the residents had regarding the trucks and stuff, and so if you would bring, something in. I think the residents, the ones I spoke to, would like the convenience of some sort of a small edits-like area, to go to, but they're concerned with the trucks.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it sounds like people misunderstood or information got spreaded, but it's not gonna be a truck stop, not gonna be idling. Anybody wants to ask me a question, like I'll answer transparently.
And I'll put it all in writing, on the contingency on anything I say tonight. I'll make sure it's exactly there. They won't give me water, nothing. I won't do nothing. But I promise you, I don't want, I want the same thing you guys all want. Everybody here. I don't want overnight parking. I don't want island, and I don't want to cause anybody trouble with lighting. I'm gonna do my best to block the lighting, block the sound.
So we have the variance on the floor.
So, Bill, I had touched base with you after the last meeting, kind of on a whim. So, our closest neighbor to the north, Grove City, everybody compares us to that, but they're a charter. Is that why they can basically say, if we don't like, the color of the stone you use, we're not gonna allow anything? So we have planned, and they do it with holding water and sewer and occupancy. We don't have our own building department, so we really can't stop the occupancy permit. Bill, can we put his water and sewer on the line if we don't like everything he does under general commercial? So we would get our protection, and he would be able to do the traffic study, that he's going to have to do for the state anyways at his expense of probably $100,000. And if they decide that some of his property needs to be mitigated to fix it, then he's already through with us. Is that something we can do as a statutory village, or can we not do that because the Ohio Revised Code doesn't state it that way?
I don't really understand your question, I'm sorry.
Basically, can we put a deed restriction?
Yeah, can we deed restrict and not issue his water and sewer if he doesn't meet what we've said? Yes, Ross.
Time out here, when we have the annexation, we have a service agreement that goes with that says we're gonna supply those things. I think where our position is that we have to approve the general plan. And once they're approved, then they cannot be varied. And so that should answer itself. That should take care of the situation.
So we can't, is what you're saying?
I said it's not necessary.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see it as being necessary. We've already promised that we can provide services. And the leverage comes in when there's 3 different parts to the zoning code and 3 different levels of review, including the technical review team that includes the fire chief, includes school board, everybody else in the world. You've got that, and then you have the plan that is submitted in the sketch type or preliminary plan, and then you have the actual plan that will make approval, and all the questions that have to be answered then about things. And then that's the way it'll be. That's what has to be done.
So because of him having to do the major site plan on the general commercial, at that point, we can still have those protections going general versus going planned.
Yeah, anything that's a variance from the standard plan, and like they did last time, they gave us the documentation about variation.
Yeah.
We're not going to be the same thing, and in that listing of things will be the promises, the guarantees about what will happen. So I don't see that we're at risk on any of that.
So I guess I'm a little confused because when we said in there, we talked about it going to a planned commercial. Because if he was to we put a general commercial, he pulls the gas station, then all of a sudden we could be looking at a Dollar General.
Correct.
Or whatever. I think that was our issue is we want what's planned there.
And that's why going with a plan that has to be submitted as a final plan, that that has to be that, or it won't be approved at all. If
And we
anything
still do
varies
that
from
under
that, it's just done, it's over.
But we cannot do that under general.
You wanted to go to plan because of that concern.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
You're 100% right.
Yeah.
I think that's what Ross was saying, from what I understood it.
Yeah.
So Ross, you're saying that we can't do it general. It needs to be planned for that protection.
that was what we talked about on the 22nd.
I'm sorry, I was misunderstanding what you were saying then. When you
Yes.
said we have to approve the general, then I was,
I'm sorry, yes, we have to approve the general plan, not zoning.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
confused. I'm sorry.
My bad. So I don't see that item D is even pertinent at this point.
All right, let's move on. Ryan Smalley with Envision. He was brought in from Jay Weaver with the Land Use Committee to kind of give us a presentation of how they can help us move forward.
Yeah, great. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to come and present. I'm Brian Smalley, as you said, with Envision. We are a land use planning and strategic planning consulting firm that works with communities of all shapes and sizes across the state. I've been doing this for about 20 years. Our company's been around for about 10. I founded it with Emil over there, who's the co-founder of Envision as well. Just to kind of give you a background on a comprehensive plan of what it is, what it can do for a community, it really provides you with sort of that guidebook. I've been sitting here listening to people come up and talk about changes in land use and a full-time administrator and all these different things. A comprehensive plan can be sort of that guide that helps council make decisions over the next 10 to 15 years. Those goals and objectives within the comprehensive plan are made through a public process. So usually there's a steering committee that's put together. Some members of the community are on that committee, business owners, stakeholders. They help guide the process, which usually lasts 9 to 12 months. We engage the public throughout this process to get feedback as to how people, what do we want to see the community to be in 10 years? How do we want to get to where we want to go? What are our goals? What are our objectives? And how do we implement those objectives? And that's really where we try to stand apart a little bit from our competition, is to actually come up with an implementation strategy that allows you to highlight certain priorities over the next 1 to 5 years that you want to get done. A comprehensive plan is sort of in its name all encompassing. So it definitely hits on land use. It definitely provides that guidance from a land use perspective in terms of Commercial Point, how you want to grow, how big do you want to get, where do you want to grow? And that question could be part of the process as we go through it to give you an idea of, if you do want to grow, where should we be targeting to grow and how much can we grow? And where do we want to see more industrial? Do we want to see more industrial? Do we want to see commercial, residential development? Somebody came in here and said 2-acre lots or whatever it might be. Do we want to see that everywhere? Do we want to be denser? I think those are the questions that you go through as part of a comprehensive planning process to inform your decisions going forward, so that things are done in a sort of a non-reactionary mode, right? Well, the developer came and now we've got to rush to do whatever they're trying to put together here. No, you have a vision of what you want to be, and developers come in and you look back to that vision and say, hey, this is how we want to develop going forward. This doesn't meet our strategy, so for those reasons we're not going to, or we need your development to be changed to fit into our strategy. And I think it really just houses how you want to grow and expand over those 10 to 15 years. So the recommendations in that plan can be very all-encompassing. As I mentioned, land use and zoning are definitely within there. So things like buffering and lighting, yes, we can put in recommendations to, how do we want those things to be in the future? But it's also economic development based. What economic development tools can we utilize to fund that full-time administrator, or to leverage a certain investment? I know you guys have mentioned TIF a couple times. You guys seem to be already pretty good at using that to leverage investments, but there are other tools as well. And then from an infrastructure standpoint, the comprehensive plan can be used to help the community go after grants. So grants were mentioned here a minute ago, highlighting locations where, oh man, we're not going to go do the traffic study at an intersection or say the trail is going to be right here, but we could have it in the plan as priorities that, hey, in the future, these are the areas where we think we may need to have more robust infrastructure. So as the community grows, there are funding sources to help go supplement those costs.
And the plan can be a vital tool when you're going to grant funders to say, hey, look, we had a public process. These are the priorities that came out of that public process. We're not coming at you, Mr. Funder, just out of the clear blue. This is something that we planned for, and this is part of our strategy, and that helps you secure grant funding for a variety of infrastructure needs. So that's really kind of all I have. Go ahead.
Should we do this with the township?
You know, the community, especially with probably the annexation that is going on, I think it would be wise to have the township involved in the process. Communities can do it. Again, I didn't say this in my presentation, but this is just a recommendations document. There's nothing legal about this document. This isn't changing zoning. You're not going to go in and change zoning with this. You're going to have recommendations to do that step in the future, but that's a separate process. But there are communities that we're working in a township right now that has the village that is encompassed by it on their steering committee because they want to have an open line of communication. They want to work together on things. We would encourage that because you are going to be interacting with them whether you want to or not as you continue to grow. And obviously the decisions you make impact the township as well. So yeah, I would say that would make sense to, if they're not maybe a voting member on the steering committee, at least be part of those discussions throughout the process.
So, and you said that you would also open that up to the residents, that they can be part of that.
So this is a very public process. Usually it's 3 rounds of engagement. Usually we come at the beginning to try to get some ideas of what focus areas should be going forward. What do we want? What are the 3 to 5 to 7 things that as a community we really want this plan to address? So we have public forums. We go to events all the time where you're having a Christmas event. We're usually there with our stands and boards trying to get feedback from people because usually we get more people at events. There's community surveys that are both online and in print that ask similar questions at the beginning to try to figure out what do we want to be as a community. As we go through the process and we have some draft recommendations, we come back to the community again with, hey, these are some of the ideas that we've heard from you, from the steering committee, from stakeholders. Is this what you guys want to see? Do we want to see this going forward? And again, when we always do these interviews, I always say that you want more public input than less because it really does, you really start to hear commonality the more you talk to more people. I know everyone won't agree on everything that comes out of this plan, but the more robust your public engagement strategy, the better your plan is going forward. And then at the end of the process, we come with sort of an implementation strategy of, okay, we've heard all these recommendations and which ones are the ones we really want to knock off the list in the first 1 to 5 years? What are the low-hanging fruit that we can, start getting that road built? Or, hey, these are the zoning changes we need to do, or this is a strategy that we need to implement. That's sort of that last round of engagement. So the public's very much involved in this and critical to making good decisions.
I agree, they should be involved 100%.
As council goes forward with this, can you forward a couple of examples of recent plans, public documents, so the council can see what the fruits of your labor have been as they look forward to what they want to do?
Yeah, for sure. I'll send
That'd be great.
all kinds over to you guys.
Now, if you don't want to divulge your clients, do you have any in Pickaway County area or south of Columbus area, or are you?
Pickerington, we did their plan 3 years ago now. Right?
Yeah, end of COVID.
And into COVID, yeah, that's a good benchmark for everything.
More towards a village though.
So villages, Village Poland in outside of Youngstown, about 3,000 work there. Also have a couple down in Cincinnati we've worked with. So I didn't really do our resume too much, but we work across the state with really, we're working with a lot of townships right now, villages, cities, counties, regional planning entities. We've done a lot of work with DOT. So our backgrounds are pretty varied. So we've seen these challenges that you're facing before.
Do you have a dollar amount? Do you have a range of what your services are going to cost?
Typically, it varies depending on how intense we want to do engagement and how long we want to make that happen. In the 50 to 75, I would say for something like this, 75,000. It's generally what we would probably be looking at here. to put a plan document together and to do the entire engagement and implementation services and all that stuff.
Now, did you look at the one that the village paid a lot of money and didn't get a lot of input on what the township did?
I know that we came in a long time ago. I looked at that a long time ago, but I have not looked at it recently, no.
Because we don't want a copy of that.
And that is, and that's the problem. And that is a problem that a lot of plans in the past had with, and that's where I think we tried to, give you a list of our clients, you can talk to them. But my background's in engineering, so I'm an engineer just like Susan, but I'm also a planner, and I can't stand a plan set that's just a bunch of happy words and great goals, and you can never achieve any of them, and there's no path forward. I mean, we really try to implement the recommendations out of there. We do a lot of zoning code writing, we do a lot of economic development on the back end. I do a ton of grant writing for people, all really coming out of our plan documents and helping communities achieve something out of it. By the time you get through this 9 months to a year process, the public's involved in this process. They want to see something come out of this. People are ready to go. And if we could find something that's a low-hanging fruit to start to kick that process off, you get more momentum. It's the times where you have all these big goals and you get everybody together, and then it's like, okay, well, now our focus is to really have something that's implementable. And I haven't looked at it, so I don't know.
So the last time, Ross, wasn't it like 3% of respondents put into the last order? It was under 10.
There were different categories, and I've got the documents and things, but there was a pretty good participation. It took 18 months to go through the process. Township and the village were partners in this. When it came down to the final document, then the township did not accept it.
Okay.
The village did receive and take it, take their part of it, and then put it on the shelf. And then it collected dust. And then 2 years ago, there was a problem because nothing that in it was ever followed. So.
And that's part of it too. I mean, as part of the process, we always recommend that the steering committee, the group that is meeting bi-monthly throughout this process, stays together and gives council updates every 6 months about what things we're implementing. What are we trying to do? What are we going forward with? We worked in a small community outside of Cincinnati called Madera that never did a plan for 80 years. Their city just it worked very well that they wanted to do a plan, and we've been working with them for the last 6 years, still implementing plans. We did a second plan because they implemented so many things so quickly. Now they're a special case, and not all places are like this, but they do have some money and they do have some political clout. But they did implement a large part of their plan, so it's definitely possible. We just have to keep it as a focus every so often. It can't be something that does get thrown to the side, because then it is worthless and it's not worth doing. So my hope is that if we were to do this with this group, that we would have something that's robust and implementable right as we finish. And a lot of times we end up writing code right as we finish for communities to get those things you're talking about, the lighting and the buffering and how dense do we want these homes to be. All that sort of figured out as we're finishing up the plan, so that you guys, when the next developer comes in, you have everything ready to go.
Good.
So you're 50 to 75,000 ish.
Yeah, sure.
That would be for a total plan ready to be sat on the shelf and looked at.
I would hope not. I would hope that.
Well, I think Bill said we need something to put on the shelf to pull off when we need a grant or
When
something.
you have a comprehensive plan, to his point, to Susan's point, it's much easier to apply for a grant.
Yes.
While you have a comprehensive plan that says these are.
Right.
Your
A lot.
goes on.
A lot of funders, there's 5 to 10 points and a little checkbox that says, do you have an up-to-date comprehensive plan that shows this as a priority? If you don't, you might as well not even apply. It's gonna be very difficult to get a lot of those grant funds. So I'm not just saying it to say it. I mean, it definitely is something that funders want to see, because they don't want to see you give the money back. If they award you funds and then the public goes nuts because this isn't something we want and it wasn't in a plan, the last thing the funders want to do is for you to say, we gotta get the money back. They hate that. So they want to make sure that this is something that's been vetted through a public process already. That's why they award funds that way.
So this is something that the village should probably plan on spending a little bit if we bring your company in, spending a little bit every couple, 3 years to revisit and see if it needs updated or how to.
No, I would say that, typically, the Madera example is an extreme case where they're very aggressive in wanting to implement. It's something that other communities that we've worked with do with their steering committee. I mean, every 6 months to a year, the head of the steering committee comes in and says, hey, we've been working on these 3 things with council. We're working towards these goals and have implemented portions of their plan based on what their priorities are. You don't have to necessarily have us come back and lead that. You can if you want, but typically at that point, leaders have kind of come through that process and have taken things and championed them on their own. Sometimes they're council members, sometimes they're steering committee members. So it isn't a necessity to have us here unless you want us here. I mean,
So I just need to ask, is steering committee synonymous for a planning and zoning committee?
So no, we usually we leave it up to the community and how exactly you want to structure that committee. Usually it's 12 to 18 people. It can be, we've had planning commissions be the committee, but a lot of times we recommend that maybe there's a person from council, a person from planning commission, a couple business owners, a couple residents that kind of represent the varying demographics and varying geographic locations of the community. Maybe some stakeholders, the township in this case might make sense to be on there. So you have a wide variety of opinions and some different backgrounds sort of giving you information that have, people have expertise, especially if there's somebody who has expertise in like architecture or city planning or anything in those sort of broad terms. Economic development would be a great person to have on the committee to sort of have that background, that sounding board, because we're going to come in with ideas that we think might work for the community, and we want to be able to get that feedback from that group to steer it. It's totally your plan. It's not our plan. I'm going to suggest things, and if it's something that people don't want, we're not going to do it. It's as simple as that. So, but we want to be able to provide ideas so that people can understand them and give us feedback, and then we can go to the public and get feedback from the public as well. So
maybe send us those, the villages that are close to us, send that to us, and we can put it on the CAL agenda to talk about further, maybe have a cost analysis, something like that.
yeah, I'll send you guys some information on our company and some of the sample projects and stuff.
I want to make a disclaimer so that there's no misunderstanding for their company. I contacted them at the request of the Land Use Committee and of the mayor. And I got their information from Susan. So my point is, I have nothing to do with them, so don't hold that against them. That's the way things are going and everybody's upset. I don't want them to be on the wrong end because we had nothing in common except Susan. So just want to make sure everybody
And
understands
that was also at my request to find someone who could do a plan for y'all.
And this is something that you could start on immediately or January, February, I mean, whenever we decide, right? It's not like they're too busy.
No, it's totally on your schedule. Whenever you guys think it's time to do it, yeah, we would come in and start kicking that off and get the steering committee moving and our public engagement and all that stuff.
Great.
Anything else?
Appreciate it, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The last business item, we have the CRA presentation first.
Hi, it's me again. Hopefully this one goes a little quicker. But,
Name and address, please.
well, which one?
Bruce Moore, Corey's old house.
Exactly. I'll give you Corey's address. So this particular topic sometimes has a bad taste for folks. So I want to take a second to talk about and echo what we just heard from Envision, right? TIFs, CRAs, NCAs. There's a reason they're called economic development tools, right? They're not given dirty words, they're called tools. They're something to be utilized to foster development that otherwise isn't possible because financially it wouldn't make sense for a developer to want to do, right? Because as much as development, it's just the facts, right? If it doesn't pencil out to some margin of profit, it's not going to happen. Rickenbacker Exchange is a good example. You do not get a development that requires almost $40 million of infrastructure improvements without economic incentives, right? You just don't get them. You do not get Class A developments built by Pizzuti and Hart and Van Trust without them having a TIF in place, right? So that's how you get those kind of unique circumstances. Today, we're going to talk about something that I think is unique for the village, that they want, that we're having difficulty providing. And that is affordable, low-density housing, right? Keyword being affordable, right? You can build low-density housing and charge $850,000 to $1 million, and people will buy it in the Village of Commercial Point. There is a market for it. It's a slow saturation, so people don't want to build them necessarily right away. They would much rather come in the MIs and sell you the 500. That market is much faster. They tick them off. That's why we're on, I think, phase 5 of Foxfire, right? They sell pretty quickly. But that $500,000 to $755,000 starting price tag isn't what I would consider to be affordable for most people, especially for a starter home or starting out in this area, right? So we're trying to get price points sub 400, sub 300, right? I know that we would all love a $150,000 house, but well, that just doesn't happen in today's world. So what we proposed and what got brought up to the Village of Commercial Point were these idea of townhomes, right? Deeded, shared walled homes, built nicely, communities all over Central Ohio. I know you guys saw a presentation on this, and I'm talking about the property that actually is the buffer between Chuck Lang's property, the gas station that we're talking about on 104, and the MI subdivision, right? So we have this buffer area where we were talking about putting in townhomes. Planning came into the village. First thing that was mentioned was, hey, can we make this a little bit lesser density, right? We want a few less. Well, the problem is we did that, and now we can't afford it. So this property was initially included in the CRA for Rickenbacker Exchange. And what we have determined is that it is potentially eligible for that CRA tax abatement because of all the industrial growth in northern Pickaway County, right? There is a need for affordable workforce housing to fuel Almdrel and to fuel Rickenbacker Exchange, as well as all of the other development that's going on. Something that someone who is a single income making $75,000 a year, $65,000 a year at these factory jobs, they can't afford, because they cannot afford a home in Foxfire or a home in Walker Point on that kind of income these days. It just doesn't happen. You don't qualify. So, again, it's not something the village has to do. It's a tool for a reason, right? You choose when you use it, and you choose when not to. But if the village still wants to be able to utilize this particular property as a test bed for that affordable, lower density housing, right? We need some help. What we need is the village to say, yes, the CRA is transferable there. We know it applies, but again, much to the chagrin of my developers, when that CRA was developed, there were protections put in place. So the village has approval authority. The village works with who it wants to. And that approval authority says, well, we have to assign it, and we don't have to assign to just anyone. It's someone who we believe supports the idea of what the CRA was for. The CRA was designed to foster industrial development in northern Pickaway County. So what we're asking is, if this is something that this council still wants, and I know it's changed, we have some new folks, right? If this more affordable, lower density housing is something that the village wants, we need to know upfront that the village is going to be okay assigning the CRA to the homeowners, right? Because usually when the CRA gets assigned, it's assigned to one person, right? Because they're buying, a 100-acre lot over in Rickenbacker Exchange. Well, there's a lot more. There'd be more assignments, right? Not that the village would have any additional work, except maybe seeing my pretty face more often when I ask you to approve the assignment. But it has to be something that you're willing to consider. Because this is different, right? It is a situation where the warehouses really don't put a lot of strain on public infrastructure. From a water use perspective, it's not nearly as much as a residential subdivision. From a fire call perspective, you can check with the township, but I think you'll find between their own private fire suppression systems, their fire response teams, and their own internal medic teams, they don't really make a lot of calls unless it's a catastrophe. So they don't put necessarily that much of a strain on any kind of resource for the village. we recognize that this is different, right? This is a situation where we are moving families potentially into these homes, right? So there is some burden that is placed there. Now, the idea being they would be paying income tax. We also know that the way the village's tax structure is, because of there's a long history here. If anyone has questions afterwards, I'm happy to help explain it. But we used to have an operating levy that was based on property taxes. We no longer have that. So now we only have a statutory tax base. Yeah. And that statutory tax base for property taxes is fairly low. Most of the village's operating income comes from the RETA tax, that I know is an ugly word, but unfortunately is a necessary evil in today's economy to fuel the village. Those folks would still be paying that RETA tax, so it would still be helping to offset their costs. But again, the question is this something that you want? You see places use CRAs for residential development in areas that otherwise wouldn't be developed. You see that, the city of Columbus uses it often when they wanted to revitalize downtown and they wanted developers to come in and build, what amounted to almost $1 billion high rise, right? And they wanted folks to be able to purchase there. Because of its expense, they tax abated them. They were still ridiculously expensive, but it brought people into the downtown corridor, right? So the question becomes, it's not something to be used for any general subdivision that you can put anywhere. But in the instance where you want to create this, again, low density and affordable, because we could put more homes there, more townhomes, and we could make it pencil out if you guys would approve it, but you're clear you didn't want it. We could also raise the price, but that doesn't really serve the purpose or the goal for that area. And when we came to the village with this land, it was, what do you want us to do there? We're already zoned for single family residential, right? It's already zoned, it's annexed into the village. We have our services resolutions. We could plat and plan probably about 20 to 30 homes on that acreage that we have there, and just make it a straight residential under the zoning code, no plan district required, just going and doing. But that's not what the village wanted. That's why we came to you with this plan. Ideally, because as the planners previous have spoken, it's nice to have buffer zones, right? If we're going from a single family residential subdivision, it's very nice in Foxfire, and moving over to a more commercial district, we provide this buffer zone where people are okay being closer to the commercial district while buffering the light, the noise, and other untoward things that a single family residential subdivision might otherwise see in a gas station. So it's also providing that. With that said, it's something to consider. It's not something I need you to make a consideration or a decision tonight. What I would ask is that you speak about it, think about it, decide if it's something that you really want in the village. Know that if you want it, this is what we need to be able to do to put it there, and just talk about it in the county. And if it's something that you like, I'll work with Bill to put something together to formalize it. Again, this isn't something that we don't have to pass a new CRA. We don't have to expand the district. We've looked at it about 15 different ways. It's already within, that acreage is already within the CRA district that currently exists. We just need kind of a resolution. Unfortunately, we know that a lot of council members are going to be changing, right? We know that things change. So what we're looking for is a formal resolution that we can rely on from the village to know whether or not this is okay or not okay. And if it's not okay, we would love to put them in. We can go back to the drawing board, right? That's not a problem. We have options to sell it for the residential development if necessary. But I know that's not what you guys wanted, and we're trying to provide what the village wants on that ground. So, any questions?
I'm sorry.
Please. Who would like to start?
So how, Bruce, you can probably answer this better anyway, putting those lower income townhomes next to Foxfire, how is that going to affect their property values?
Well, don't get me wrong, they're not lower income. Okay, so we're talking, are you familiar with, I guess the best picture, now this isn't going to go, the developer that's actually putting these might not like this, but the best comparison I can give you is the lifestyle communities above 161, right? They're hybrid communities. You have single family homes, right, that are built, and then you have very nice, very well appointed townhomes. And basically what you do is in the area that you would normally have a house, right? You put two houses next to each other, maybe 160, 165 feet long, right? And they all share a wall. So since they share that common wall, they share that common roof, it allows the density to be higher so we can sell more units per acre, which is what brings the price up. But don't get me wrong, they will be, they'll have high-end finishes, they will have high-end amenities. While if you took the same space for a house, A house might cost $750,000 to build. These row homes for the unit will probably cost in the $3 to $4 million range, right? It's just that we're able to break it up to pass along the cost
Sure,
savings.
but how does those row homes affect neighboring property values?
If anything, well, that would be my point. I think that you'll find on a historic value analysis that they don't affect, as long as as long as it's a quality product, which is what I think the developer presented to you to bring in. Don't get me wrong, there are also townhomes that are done not well. If you look at the townhomes that are put next to, I always get confused. I think it's Hilliard Davidson. There's a set of, there's a townhome community. Maybe it's not Davidson. It's the one that's off Cemetery Road. But whichever high school that is, there's a set of townhomes that I went and looked at when I sat on council because someone else had this idea. And I was like, no, because this is what I thought they were going to look like. And it wasn't until I realized that that was kind of the late 90s to early 2000s model of townhomes where you had two houses with these garages that kind of come out and they're just vinyl sided and they're kind of built cheaply. But that's not modern day. They're looking, like I said, the price point's probably going to be around that $350,000 mark is I think what they quoted.
Yes,
And it's $350,000 for a 1,500 square foot house, which so on a square foot value, the price is actually higher than most of the homes that you're going to see in Miranda or Foxfire.
And they were willing to, the residents of Foxfire really came out when they were talking about coming in, and through working with, I believe he was vice president or something, they were willing to address everything and remove all the houses on the north end. So it's going to be, and don't quote me on this, but it looked like about 350 to 400 feet of buffer of nothing but berms and trees. I just don't, doing a CRA for this residential, Bruce, what kind of impact financially does that have negatively on Commercial Point or the school district?
So the best person to answer that, unfortunately, is probably going to be Wendy, because she can tell you from a property tax perspective what kind of money you would look at getting. I think that if you ask her on any given house, she can give you a roundabout figure on what comes from a general house and how that impacts it. But at least my understanding is that the Village of Commercial Point just doesn't get much per house in the way of property taxes. And that's because when the operating levy that had been in place for many, many years was up for renewal, was the year after the RETA tax had been approved. And the village thought they were voting down the RETA tax, but really they voted down the property levy that had been in place and funding the village for a very long time. And so now we haven't had a choice but to keep that RETA tax in place, because otherwise we don't have that property tax levy anymore. So unless the constituents are willing to put a property tax levy back in, that's where we're at. And that's why the property taxes, even though it's a property tax abatement, there's just not a lot of property taxes. Now, don't get me wrong, we all pay a lot of property taxes. I don't want to confuse that. It's the portion that goes to the village. The vast majority of it goes down to the Circleville area unless there's a TIF in place that recirculates it here to the Village of Commercial Point. So please don't let me say that there's not a lot of property taxes being paid. We all pay a ton of property taxes. It's just where it goes. Most of it gets recirculated down Circleville. That's just that.
Bruce, you mentioned if you went the way that it's zoned right now, you could drop 25 houses or so.
25 to 30 is what we project.
How would that look when you're estimating? And I'm not going to hold you to the exact number, but what would be an estimated if it translates into
well, so here's what I'll tell you. So the way that property is structured and where it's at, because we know commercial is going to be on one side, it's going to be sold. We're not residential developers. We're going to sell it. The folks who have been interested, if I'm being blunt, are not the folks I would want building homes next to me, because they're going to build cheaper homes because that's what's going to sell in that area. That's what because of the size, right? A lot of the home developments, when you look at the nature of those homes, they're able to distribute costs across all of the homes to give you those bigger spaces, the nicer green spaces, the stone and stucco finishes, those sorts of things. When we're dealing with a small area that's zoned residential, when we're going in, I think you're seeing on this 10 acres, right? There's a company called Arbor Homes that I think is looking at that 10 acres. And if you look at them compared to the developers that are building right now, it's not the same. And that's what we'd be looking at. So I would consider those to be probably, well, now that the code doesn't require basements, I would assume they would be slab ranch homes around the 1,200 square foot range.
So what's the number of units would you estimate? You're looking at double the number of units? You're saying 25 to 30, or are you talking 50 to?
No, I'm saying I know, because we would still be constricted to the density requirements in the village code. So I think would be 25 to 30 would be, it's probably closer to the 25 number, to be honest. I'd have to look at it because it's going to depend on kind of what the engineer tells us we have to have from a drainage perspective and those sorts of things, so we can determine what is our net developable acreage.
The only, and I don't need everything except the Reader's Digest version, but you mentioned about assigning the CRA to the homeowner.
Yes, so the CRA eventually gets assigned to the end user, right? So if you are, because these aren't condos, you actually, I'm sorry, they're not apartments.
Okay.
Condos are a different type of town,
Yeah.
but since you're actually owning them, you would be the deeded owner and you would get the CRA.
So it would have to be reassigned every time it's sold?
Just for each individual sale.
Yes, it would be each individual sale, that's correct.
So Bruce, I have a question on that, because in the industrial park, each building pays $2,500. Would each one of those assignments have to pay that exact same amount if they have that CRA?
I have to look, I believe that they would still be obligated, those sort of pilot payments that are paid, they would still be under the same terms. There's no carve out, right? It's anything built under that CRA. I can't remember off the top of my head if that's a square foot basis or just a CRA ownership.
It might be square foot.
And I'm just not certain, but there would be some payment being made to the village. Plus, there would be, so there's a land use uptick whenever the property is transferred. So that ground now is incredibly valuable, right? So when we bought it, the baseline was around probably $12,000 an acre. The baseline in that area now is much closer to $150,000 an acre. And whenever it's transferred, the CRA, where you don't get the building is abated, whatever the house is, the land value increase isn't abated. So there would still be some increased tax value just based upon the acreage there in general.
Thank you.
Thank you. Put it on,
Thank you.
put it on the count. Okay, now we're to legislation. First reading, resolution number 29-2025, a resolution to make temporary appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the Village of Commercial Point, Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2026. Title only. Ordinance number 2025-10, an ordinance to rezone 6.7384 plus and minus acres within the Village of Commercial Point, Ohio from exceptional use to general commercial. Resolution 28-2025, a resolution approving a conditional use for an automobile car wash in general commercial district within the Village of Commercial Point, Ohio. Up for second reading. Ordinance 2025-08, an ordinance accepting the final plat of Foxfire subdivision Phase 4, Part 1. Title only. Ordinance 2025-09, an ordinance accepting the final plat of Foxfire subdivision Phase 4, Part 2. Up for third reading. Ordinance 2025-06, an ordinance to commission auxiliary trainer for the Village of Commercial Point's Police Department.
Motion to adopt.
By Eric. Do I have a second?
Second.
Sarah. Roll call.
Dustin,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Eric.
Yes.
Thank you. Pending administrative action. Resolution 30-2025, a resolution to transfer monies from the general fund from the transfers out account 1000-910-910 and transfer said monies to the capital outlay 1000-110-590. This is of course for the radios. Sorry, it's late. You all have a copy.
Yep.
Yes.
Resolution 31-2025, a resolution to ratify the realignment of monies within the other,
Do it.
and nobody said anything, so I figured they wanted you want discussion or
For what?
the resolution 30-2025?
No, we need to adopt it.
Motion.
Motion, oh, I'm sorry, I
It was
blanked
quiet,
out.
so I thought nobody was gonna do it.
I'm sorry.
Okay, motion,
Yes.
okay, by Eric,
Second.
second by Jay. Roll call.
Ross?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
Dustin?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Okay. Resolution passed. Okay, resolution 31-2025, a resolution to ratify the realignment of monies within the other special revenue fund and the other contractual services account 2903-490-399-2503 and transfer said monies to the other debt service account 2903-850-790-2515.
Discussion. Wendy, can you just let everybody know what that is, so we're not just transferring money willy-nilly, please?
I've already done the action because I had to do it because of the big deposit that we got from the county auditors.
Right.
This is because we received the refund that I explained to you guys in the committee of the whole. And we had to adjust the money within those few tip dollar funds to be able to credit back that refund that the village received. So that's all it is.
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Eric, second.
Second.
Ralph? Roll call.
Dustin?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Ross?
Yeah.
Eric?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
Okay, resolution 32-2025, a resolution to ratify the realignment of monies within the general fund from the transfers out account 1,910,910 and transfer said monies to the medical insurance account 1,710,221. Do you have a motion?
Motion.
By Sarah, second.
Second.
Yes.
Ralph. Roll call.
Ross?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Dustin?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
Additional items, I do have a couple. We discussed prior to the Cal meeting about this village administrator solicitor job. And it was then, because it was brought an idea to me. And we discussed it then that we'd be better off just for a village administrator. At our last Cal meeting, we discussed that village administrator job. We discussed the salaries of what Asheville and South Bloomfield pay, which is over $100,000. We discussed that it would probably be a full-time position because we're getting to that point. So I just wanted to clarify those items.
Yes.
Also, Ms. Fleming, with the schools being involved in conversations, that's the first thing I did when I took over this position is I brought the school in. We've had several meetings. I know Corey did a public records request and saw an email I'd sent the previous mayor, why didn't the school know about this development? I thought, there was conversations and, he had a response to that. So I feel it's very important that they have a seat at the table and I've made sure that and the township. So I wanted to let you know that. Thank you.
That is one of our biggest concerns as the council as a whole, is with the schools.
Yeah, I'm glad I know a lot of you have children within the district too, so I'm sure it is. I'm just want to make sure that it's being represented.
Is there any other additional business?
Yes, a couple things along those same lines. And just to tag on what the mayor was saying, 7 years ago, we sat here in this room with members of the school board, the superintendent, the right-hand man, the trustees. We met here in this room and talked about everything that was going on here in the area. And we showed at that time that there were almost 2,000 homes that could be put here in the next 10 years. And the school board's response, the superintendent's response and the right-hand man, who it was, the finance man, he said, we're not worried about it. We got plenty of room. And we reiterated, this is not, we got plenty of room. So, the village cannot be faulted in communicating what was going on and exactly, and they were absolutely disinterested. Second thing is that the circumstance that we talked about where I voted, I made a vote against having the public speak was if you remember, it was at a special meeting. And what my vote was not to change the rules. So it had little to do with the fact of having public comment. It had everything to do with changing the rules for the meeting, that the way they were posted. So just want to clarify, we need to tell the whole story if we're going to tell the story. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
I have some.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. With this, all this stuff that we heard today about what happened with you, I truly apologize you had to go through that.
No need.
I am going to piggyback off of Courtney that I think you should put in your resignation.
Well, that's not gonna happen, but I appreciate it.
Well, listen, here's why I say that. You sat right there one day and was talking to me about an amusement park you was at.
Mhm.
And you used a very racial slur when you described the music.
Doubtful.
No, you didn't, I promise.
Okay.
And I gave you grace on it.
I appreciate that,
But we can't be treating council members.
we didn't get the whole story, okay? What we heard here was a portion of the story like we always do. We were told what we called down to the Board of Elections that we were gonna have time to speak. I went as a private citizen, okay? And the lady said, no, there's no speaking. One of the other people that was at the meeting explained to me that Eric came down and started this. And they told me that while I'm sitting in the
You
meeting.
did start it, Jay. I
I don't know. I'm just telling you what he told me, okay? But we had absolutely no chance to find out what was going on. The thing was, the petitions were two different petitions. The one from 2 years ago and the one from this year. There was additional questions on it. And the additional questions are the ones that didn't get answered properly. Then, if you're gonna in fact take those people and put them back in, which I'm fine with, but that means that the people that had the actual petitions that they put out for council seats, why didn't they get put back in?
That's fine. That's a good question.
Okay,
But-
but what we were talking about is when he said that, I asked 5 different questions to the person and they gave me no answer. And one of the questions was exactly that. I mean, was that the whole thing? I don't know. They would not answer any questions. But when they tell you on the phone that you can come down and you can speak, and they'll answer questions, and when you get there, they will not let you speak. So I personally don't care who in fact runs, but they were invalid. They gave us no reason, why they made them valid. They would not tell us a thing. So what are you supposed to think? I mean.
But it's not because he's handicapped.
It was a question. It was a
After
question.
that comment you made right here about that, the type of music was being played at Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, the rap music, yeah.
Yeah, that ain't what we called it though.
I don't know what you call it, but I know that's what I call it.
That shows a good character, and I don't appreciate it.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate your comments.
Any other additional business? All right, there's a motion on the floor to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Sarah. All in favor? All right. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.